Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Keenan here, in case you don't know. I promised you a Saturn Retrograde video, and I was ready to make it. I was going to do it the next day for you, put it out there, and then I'm a Gemini rising. So Mars was just in Gemini, it's now in Cancer. I think it's in Cancer, yeah, it's in Cancer. But my Gemini rising is at 19 degrees, so about a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago, Mars went conjunct my ascendant in Gemini. And it passed through, and then, as it did so, because in my descendant, exactly opposite of my ascendant, in my descendant is my Saturn, right at 19 degrees. So 19 degrees, 19 degrees, they're exactly opposite. So when Mars went conjunct my ascendant, it also went opposite my Saturn, and Saturn's in retrograde. This video is about Saturn retrograde. And I'm also in my Saturn return, since my Saturn's at 19 degrees, and Saturn right now is at like, what, 25, 24 degrees? So it was a week or two, yeah, it was 2 weeks of lots of internal struggle and external struggle. You know, I would touch my electronics and they would misfire. I had to send emails 3 or 4 times. I had to, when I posted stuff on Instagram on my Phoenix Rising channel, I would spend 45 minutes coming up with the right explanation and trying to really craft it and make it and do it well and put up all the hashtags, and the picture would come up and none of the description or the hashtags would come up. And every time I did something, I lost important documents and then found them a week later as I had just ordered new ones. And then wasn't able to sleep, so wasn't able to think properly. And you know what, though? So what broke it was partly getting out of that transit, but learning through that I have to come back to myself and just do the work of self-care. So this video is in 2 parts. It's all about Saturn retrograde, but I want to talk about the personal experience that I have with Saturn now later in my return. It's still in my return. And then I want to talk about the collective experience leading up to this late summer eclipse that we're having, because it's all very tied in. I have Pluto in Scorpio. I'm a millennial, and Pluto's conjunct my sun, so I know that Pluto conjunct Sun, we can be arrogant assholes, frankly. We can really, our egos can go sour, you know, those sorts of things definitely do happen, but we are also, I believe, very much in tune with our generation and with what's going on in the world. And I strongly feel this way. I'm always fascinated with what's going on, and I love looking at it. So as I go into talking about the collective in this video, I am going to mention what's happening in the political sphere, but know that my intention is not to talk about who is better or who is worse, because my whole point is going to be speaking to the opposite. So if you don't like politics and you don't want to hear it at all, just stay for the personal story. I encourage you though to try to listen to the end, because there's been things that have been coming up in my psyche that I'm feeling are going to happen, and I really just want to give a message, and that is to stay as emotionally detached from the events that are happening as possible. Detach yourself. No matter what side you are on of the argument, try to detach yourself, because Neptune is about to go retrograde into Pisces. It's still in Pisces, but like it's about to go retrograde, and then Uranus is going to go retrograde, and when the eclipse happens, Pluto and Saturn will also be retrograde, and that eclipse is splitting the country in half, and it is very negatively affecting our head leader, and it is going to very negatively affect the country. And I don't mean that to say that this is a negative video. That's just to say the information is there's a really, really tough, not positive transitions happening. So, but first things first. So what I learned in these last couple weeks, well, Mars going opposite my Saturn, it was like any time I tried to get something done, it would get lost. It would go away. And all, like my Scorpio stellium, you know, my Sun conjunct Pluto is fight, 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 because like things couldn't work, and so I would be screaming in my car at my phone for not working, that is now beautifully recording this video, thank you phone, or I was screaming at cars because in this town they either go 70 miles an hour or 35 in rebellion, and there's just sort of no middle ground, and the energy's everywhere, and I was just emotionally responding. And with all of my Scorpio, I wish I had some earth to ground me, but in tough transitions like that, in tough transits, all of my Scorpio stellium in the 5th house just shoots forward and just has to react and has to be transformed by my reactions and what negatively happens. Saturn was really, really testing my patience, and I was able to see that I don't have patience for myself. And that's always something I've struggled with, I don't have a lot of patience for myself getting things wrong. I want to get them right, and perfectionism is essentially the seed of inaction, right? Because when we are trying to get stuff perfect, we aren't acting on it. Yeah, sure, we're whittling away, but we're not seeing the forest and the trees. So with all of this energy in the last 2 weeks, I finally came back to meditation, because I fall asleep nightly with Michael Seeley meditations on YouTube. They're really, really great. Michael Seeley or Jason Stevenson. I love those meditations, but I was also going to sleep and having trouble sleeping, and they were suddenly making me anxious because I wasn't actually having waking meditations. I wasn't sitting on my Zafu and just spending 15 minutes breathing. I wasn't doing it. I was just panicking about everything. I'm moving. I have to have all the stuff out of my apartment at the end of this month. I'm going minimalist. I'm wanting to get rid of stuff, really change my life, transform it. This move is a positive one. Where I've been living has been very Neptunian. I've been living on a Neptune line in astrocartography, and it's been full of disappointments and illusions and hard lessons during my Saturn return. So I'm not wanting to have to relive those lessons over and over again as I move. But you know what? You know what Saturn's been saying? It was like, trust that you have moved on. Trust that you have moved on. Trust the process. Breathe. Spend some time in meditation. Because it was last Friday. I finally got back into my meditation practice, wakeful meditation. And I put on one with shamanic breath where you go for 30 minutes. And I called up my spirit guides. And I knew that an eagle was a spirit guide for me, but then a bear came up, a crocodile, and an eagle. And as I meditated on that, I was like, this is the divine presence of the mother, of compassion, of protection, of fierceness when I need it, sure. But that I don't always have to be fierce. I can hibernate. I can hide in the water. I can spend time in myself. I can spend time meditating. So for me, a lot of this Saturn return has been about looking into myself. And that new moon in Gemini really highlighted that, because Gemini is knowledge. And when you have a new moon, it's knowledge of yourself turning inward. So I very much had this reawakening this past week through the tough transit. So that to say, for y'all watching, have you been experiencing something like this in the Saturn retrograde? What are your Saturn retrograde stories? Maybe not even this one. What are past Saturn retrograde stories that you've had? What has hurt so much at the time but has helped you grow? Or maybe you haven't sensed growth yet. What are those things? Comment below. I'd love to talk with you guys. Also, because I have a lot of 7th house. I have Saturn, Uranus, Neptune in my 7th house. It's my descendant. I'm very relational. I have Venus in Scorpio, Mars in Libra. I like talking to the screen, sure, but only for the purpose of being able to communicate with y'all and give information. But I love to have dialogue. I feel like my purpose in life is to help myself communicate better by communicating with others and getting us to really communicate honestly with one another. And so now, that said, I want to go into the collective. That was in my visions that I was having last night. Was this vision of getting to the top of a mountain and seeing all of us, 8 billion of us in the world, on our own separate mountains, but that we are connected and that we're on the same ground, we're on the same earth. And I was sending out love and compassion to each person on each different mountain. I was in the place I dream of going, in the Himalayas. I want to retire there. My North Node IC line is actually right there. But I've always dreamt of going there, and so I imagined it, and I imagined us all connected. And that this is the transition into the age of Aquarius, is we have to recognize that we are all connected, but that we are all our own part of the universe. All of us are universe. We are all stardust. We are all made up of the same energy. That's why something that affects me will affect someone else. Something that affects you will affect me. Even talking through this, you know, sure, we think it's in the ether, but the ether is still a thing. So what's happening right now in our culture is that this Saturn retrograde is showing us, it is showing us where we have not been responsible for ourselves in the world. It's showing us where we have not been responsible for our own well-being. Look at what's happened in the US. I mean, whether you consider yourself more liberal or more conservative or in the middle, right? Beyond all of those labels, y'all, I'm just going to say this. I've been getting waking thoughts every day about what's going to happen. People are going to die. This is a turn of the ages. People are going to suffer. The economy is going to go down most likely within the next year. And I mean completely go down, and it won't be saved like in 2008. A sort of universal wrecking ball has come into the U.S. during our Pluto in Capricorn, leading up to our Pluto return in a couple years, to show us what is rotting within ourselves, to show us ourselves. And this Pluto retrograde and Saturn retrograde right now is showing us what is rotten. We have to, each one of us, take responsibility. We must stop blaming one another. And I see it online. I've just started correcting people's grammar, y'all. I'm gonna be petty, because people are talking past one another, and you know what it comes down to is we are not communicating with one another in a way that we are letting ourselves be heard. We really want ourselves to be heard, so what we've started doing is shouting at each other, right? Online, and yet not in person. It needs to happen in person. The family needs to fight, y'all. The family needs to have conflict. Why do we have conflict? And as a Mars and Libra person, I find it very uncomfortable when I am in love with someone or have a loved one and we have a conflict. It keeps me up all night because peace, 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 Mars. I have had to learn. We must fight with one another. We must have conflict, because that is how we get to reaffirm the importance of our relationship. And that is what's going to happen. The ultimate consequence of this solar eclipse. We have to understand our purpose, each of our own purposes, and it's going to be through hardship. We are going to lose the strength of our leadership. Some of you could arguably say we already have, but we're going to lose it faster and much more. We are going to experience great loss of structure. This is what Pluto does in Capricorn. This is how the American Revolution happened in the first place. This is how we became a country. This is how we broke away from England. Right now, all of our crap is coming up, and Saturn return is telling us to become responsible for ourselves. Also, Leo the North Node just went into Leo. We have to find our individual unique qualities and get rid of the shame. It's not helpful. The shame is an Age of Pisces relic. It's not working anymore. It's for the purpose of dumbing yourself down. It does not work. You have to get rid of it. You have to see how you are unique. You have to use Uranus. Look at where Uranus is in your chart. See how you are individual. See how you are unique. We must do the work, y'all, because, and I'm speaking not as all-knowing, but I'm trying to speak from universal wisdom that I've been meditating on. If you do not do the work, what happens to our leadership in the solar eclipse, whether you react positively or negatively to it, read between the lines. If you emotionally react, it will destroy you, and you will become part of the death, and you will be dragged down, and you will suffer, and you may not recover, because Pluto takes out the trash. It takes out things that are dead, that are not working. And if you submit your mind to emotional manipulation or to being in the masses right now, it's going to destroy you. So I plead with all of you that are watching, and please share this with your friends, or at least please share the information. Become more responsible for yourself. Get right with yourself. Get right with your universal energy. Know that you are the universal energy. Know that what you think becomes reality. And I have great hope for our future. We are on the cusp of Age of Aquarius. We are about to go into it. We are coming into it. But this is the retrograde time to get right. stay tuned. I'm going to make another video about this in the future, so stay tuned for that.